great lie of our time is the promise of a friction-free life. Think about it. Our lives are optimized for ease. Groceries delivered, work tasks automated, entertainment, and endless scroll. We've been sold a dream, smooth, stress-free living, and technology is going to take us to the promised land. What happens when that expectation, no stress, no friction, that goal, that thing that we're pursuing, an easier, freer life, when it spills that perspective, what happens when it spills into our relationships? Whether it's with our partners, our spouses, our kids, family, friends, coworkers. Friction, stress, tension, conflict, they feel like a failure. An argument, it becomes a threat in this case. A tough season of marriage feels like the end, something that's getting in my way. A struggle with a coworker, it makes us think, I can't work with them. A difficult relationship with a parent, we start to move towards estrangement in the name of self-care. Here's the truth. Stress and friction in relationship, they're not errors. They're a part of the design meant to bring us back together. But our relationship with being able to tolerate stress and friction is broken. If we embrace stress and friction in relationships rather than resisting it, those moments of tension, of conflict, it can become opportunities for deeper connection and growth. Today, I want to walk through 3 practical skills that'll help you embrace friction and transform your relationships for the better. If you don't know me, I'm Dr. Andrew Smith. I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm the founder of REWIRE. For over a decade, I've been working with people facing these exact kinds of challenges, whether it's marriages, dating relationships, friendships, workplace dynamics. Friction, it shows up everywhere. I created REWIRE. It's an evidence-based treatment approach. It helps people transform their relationships through real actionable tools and insights. It's based on cognitive behavioral therapy and published in the academic literature. So if you're ready to take the next step, I've got some free tools and a step-by-step guide to help you build a plan to start improving your relationships today. The link is in the description of rewirewellness.co. Check out that plan builder. But for today, I want to dive in on the topic of friction and stress. Here's what I want to cover today on the topic specifically of friction. Number 1, reframing friction. Why stress in relationships is not the enemy. Number 2, noticing and using choice points. How to notice and respond when friction shows up. Number 3, practical skills for change. These are simple actions to transform tension into connection. Number 4, I want to ground this in a case study. So let's get started with part 1. The first step is simple. I want to redefine or reframe what friction means. We've been conditioned to think that if something feels hard, there must be something wrong with it. Technology promises this convenience and ease, but relationships, they're not Amazon Prime. Stress and conflict are part of the deal because 2 messy people are interacting and bringing both of their stuff to the relationship. It is the stuff, the meaning in life to stay committed to another person in their mess and accepting that and working through that together. So I just want you to take an honest self-evaluation if this shows up with you. Does a fight with your spouse, does it feel like a mark of looming failure or ratchet up your anxiety? Or a challenging phase in parenting, does it seem like proof that you're not good enough? How about tension at work? Is this reason to abandon relationships with colleagues, to avoid or to blame? The irony is that this expectation of frictionlessness or perfection, it makes things worse. Here's the truth I need you to hear. Friction is actually a sign of life. It's growth, discomfort, and movement all rolled into one. When you shift your perspective, friction stops feeling like a problem and it starts feeling like a signal for something that can draw us in deeper together. So when individuals or couples come into my practice and say there's simply no conflict, I actually get worried. Conflict, friction, disagreement, they're part of a healthy forging and shaping and reshaping process that happens over a lifetime. It means that the lines of communication are open, and instead of shutting those off, peace at all costs includes peace at the cost of truly being known and the change that takes place across the lifespan. Okay, let's move to part 2, choice points. Now that we've redefined that friction is a sign of life, we arrive at choice points. Choice points are those moments when stress shows up and we're faced with two options: react automatically or pause and respond intentionally. Most likely, react, then take responsibility, then respond intentionally. Here's an example. You've had a stressful day at work and you walk through the door at home and your kid spills something on the carpet. There's crying happening in the house. There's emotions. It's dinner time. It's that witching hour. Your automatic response: I've had a hard day. Snapping, irritation, blaming. But here's the shift. Notice the choice point. Pause and maybe say, hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed. This is talking to yourself. Feeling overwhelmed and I don't want to take this out on my family. Then choose a response that aligns with your values. Maybe it's taking a breath and saying, okay, hey, let's clean this up together. How can I help? The more you practice noticing first and then responding, the more those choice points become apparent. And the more that you can use those choice points, if you can just slow down a little bit, as an opportunity to show up as the person that you want to be. Not perfect, but intentional. So part 3, let's move to practical skills to embrace friction. Here are 3 tools you can start using today beyond, and kind of how to unpack these, how to use these choice points. Number 1, name it. When tension or stress shows up, name it out loud. For example, I'm feeling frustrated right now. Naming the emotion that is obviously emanating from you, this creates a space between you and your reaction. Number 2, align with your values. Once you've named it and noticed it and named it, now it's time to choose an action that's aligned with your values. Who do I want to be in this moment? How do I want to act in this moment? If you value kindness or patience, let that guide your next action. Number 3, repair. You won't always get it right. That's the beauty of relationships, actually, committed relationships. They're a place to work out the ways that we fall short and find a way to still be loved and accepted. When you miss the mark, choose repair. It might sound like this. Hey, I reacted poorly earlier and I'm sorry. That's not who I want to be. Friction, it becomes a tool for connection, not disconnection when we repair. Let's ground this in a case study, part 4. Let's use Sarah and Jake as our case study. Now, Sarah and Jake, they've been married for 8 years. They're both busy, juggling demanding careers, raising 2 young kids. Lately, tension has been building in their relationship. Small things like leaving dishes in the sink, forgetting to communicate about schedules. These things have turned into real distance, sometimes even explosive arguments. Jake, his pattern is to withdraw, thinking, if we fight this much, maybe we're just not compatible anymore. He starts to think about the contamination of the thing. And Sarah, she actually feels panicked, thinking, happy couples don't fight like this. What's wrong with us? I need to make sure this doesn't happen anymore. So for Jake and Sarah, stress and conflict, they feel like a red flag, a sign that something's deeply wrong with their marriage. And the cost of this approach, of viewing this as an indicator of something deeply broken or deeply wrong, is this belief that tension is a sign of failure. It starts to create bigger problems. They begin avoiding important conversations to keep the peace, which only increases their disconnection. Resentment actually builds as an unspoken set of frustrations pile up. Both people feel withdrawn and lonely in the marriage, unsure how to bridge the growing gap. This is what happens when we see stress and friction as something to avoid rather than an opportunity for something to work through, uncomfortable as it may be. Conflict, it becomes a threat. Tension feels like evidence of failure. Connection erodes over time. So in Rewire, we approach this quite differently. We help couples like Sarah and Jake shift their perspective. Step 1 in Rewire, redefine the problem. Instead of seeing this conflict as a failure, we teach couples to step back and notice the context that they're struggling through. It's a lot to juggle careers and young kids and a little bit of compassion that comes out of that context. And that frustration and stress, they're a natural part of doing and trying hard things. So for Sarah and Jake, this shift alone brings relief. Tension doesn't mean that they're failing. It means that they're engaging and invested in their relationship. Step 2, notice choice points. When arguments start, Sarah and Jake learn to identify their choice points, those moments when they can actually notice that something's going on inside them and react differently, choose a value, get some distance from their emotion by naming it, noticing that as an opportunity, and choosing the values-led action, which is step 3. Jake realizes that he values patience and connection as a partner, and that he is not living up to those things in these moments of friction. So instead of withdrawing, he can say, hey, Sarah, I know this has been a tough week for us. Let's talk about what's really going on so that we can work through it together. Step 4, repair, on repeat, over and over again. When they do miss the mark, and it's not uncommon, happens in every relationship, Sarah and Jake learn the power of repair. Hey, I'm sorry I shut down earlier. I love you and I want to handle this differently next time. The result, by embracing friction instead of fearing it, Sarah and Jake begin to build their connection. Tension becomes a signal to slow down and to listen to one another. Arguments become opportunities for understanding and growth. They feel more aligned with their values and connected as partners. Stress doesn't disappear, but the relationship doesn't need stress to disappear. It grows stronger because it knows how to handle stress, and it can project itself into a future, this relationship that can handle just about anything. So the rewire really makes a difference in this. We don't teach you to avoid stress. We teach you how to navigate it with intention and skill and connection. When you embrace friction, it stops feeling like a failure, and it starts becoming a path to deeper, healthier relationships. So I want to encourage you, if you got anything out of this video, go to rewirewellness.co. Check out our relationship health assessment and plan builder, as well as our free guide. Like and subscribe to this video. We're building a community where we really intend to improve the ways that people connect with one another so that we build a thriving set of families and communities through this rewire approach. Thanks, and see you next time.